Drinking buddies, it is fall, my favorite season. And that also means it's pumpkin spice latte season. And I feel like I need to make a pumpkin spice latte cocktail, but I'm gonna make it a clarified milk punch. Let's see how it turns out.
I'm your drinking buddy.
All right, drinking buddies. So we're gonna make a clarified milk punch pumpkin spice latte cocktail. And one of the ingredients that there's just no way around to making a good clarified milk punch, we need some citrus, we need some acid. And I felt like the one that wouldn't ruin the cocktail is lemon juice. If I used orange juice, it's not gonna really fit with pumpkin and fall flavors, plus it's not quite acidic enough. Pineapple juice wouldn't fit with those flavors. Grapefruit, lime, none of those flavors work, whereas I think the lemon is gonna fit nicely. So we're gonna go with 2 ounces of lemon juice. Next up, we're gonna do 2 ounces of coffee. Need to get our coffee flavor, of course, so I did some double strong coffee here, and I'm gonna go ahead and do 2 ounces. This is gonna make a couple cocktails, by the way, not just one. Got our coffee in there. Next up, we're gonna get some rye whiskey. For fall, I think that rye whiskey is our best friend. When we're making fall themed cocktails, it's gotta be rye. And this particular bottle, Knob Creek Rye, really good, really readily available bottle. I wanted to use something you can find almost anywhere. This 100 proof offering is gonna bring a lot of baking spice flavor to this, as well as a little bit of caramel, vanilla, really solid rye that you can find almost anywhere. We're gonna go with 4 ounces of this. Plus, whenever I'm using a Jim Beam product, I get to complain about them using the stupid wax on the bottle. I'm not a fan of the wax. Gets in the product. Don't like the wax. So win-win, I get to complain. Alrighty, now we need to grab a couple ingredients from our fridge. All right, drinking buddies, so we've retrieved some ingredients from the refrigerator, and we're gonna go ahead and continue to build our cocktail. But first we need to talk about the most important ingredient in this cocktail, and that's gonna be this homemade pumpkin syrup. Now, how did I make this? Well, this homemade pumpkin syrup is gonna be equal parts pumpkin beer. I used Four Peaks pumpkin porter, but you could use a pumpkin beer that's available in your area. Maple syrup, brown sugar, and canned pumpkin, equal parts of those. And then you're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of either pumpkin spice or mulling spices. I used mulling spices. You're gonna bring that to a boil on your stove, really help those flavors really mix together, turn it into a syrup, pour it in a mason jar, and it's gonna, since you use beer in this, it's gonna last a little longer than a normal simple syrup, but it will go bad even in your fridge. So keep that in mind, you wanna use this pretty quick. Pumpkin spice syrup. Now, we're gonna go ahead and use an ounce of this syrup. You know what? I said an ounce, I'm gonna go 1.5 ounces. I wanna sweeten this thing up really nicely. It's pretty thick stuff, so I'm actually gonna stir this before we move on to the next ingredient. All right, let's give this a stir since we added in that syrup. All right, so we have most of our cocktail built here, but now we need to do the most important part of the clarification process, and that is adding in our milk and letting it curdle. I know if you've never seen a clarified milk punch cocktail before, you might find this to be a little gross, but it really isn't. This is gonna make for a really silky, smooth, wonderful drink that you are gonna love. So we're gonna grab our milk. I'm using just whole milk today, and we're gonna do 1.5 ounces in the bottom of this bowl. And to that, we're gonna slowly add our cocktail. And we wanna agitate it just slightly as we go. You wanna go slowly. All right. Agitate it just slightly. And now our wait begins. But as you can see here, we have curdled milk and all of those wonderful ingredients, and the chemical process that's going to be going on right now is going to make for a wonderful cocktail. This process has been used for hundreds of years, and it makes for some really interesting stuff. So I'm going to put this in the refrigerator for 30 minutes to 24 hours. I'm going with about an hour, but you can do it longer, you can do it a little less than that. And then we're going to filter this through some coffee filters, and it's going to come out completely clear. And even with coffee in it, even with pumpkin in it, even with all these ingredients in it, it's gonna come out clear. So it's a pretty cool process and leaves you with a really silky, smooth, wonderful, awesome cocktail. All right, drinking buddies. So it's been about an hour, and our punch here is ready to be filtered. I'm gonna go ahead and pour this through a coffee filter as well as a reusable coffee filter. I like to use a double filtration method, and it's a time saver to do it twice at once. The one recommendation I would definitely recommend for you as you begin the process of filtration is once you pour that first little bit through and it goes through, you're gonna wanna go ahead and take that first little bit, because it's not completely clarified, and dump it back through. So once our process is started, which it doesn't seem to want to start, there it goes. There it goes. It's a little bit shallow of a glass for the funnel I'm using. I think that's our problem. So that first little bit that goes through, because the curds are part of the filtration process as well, there's no curds on this yet. So that first little bit that comes through, we're going to want to go ahead and just pour it right back through. Now the punch that we get should be super clarified now that it's been ran through an extra time there with that little bit at the beginning. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this through my filter, and it's gonna take a little over an hour. I'm gonna do it in my fridge actually. So I'm gonna pour this in, let it sit in the fridge, and in about an hour we'll have this wonderful cocktail. It should make about 2 to 3 of these cocktails, and we can enjoy it and test it out and see how good it tastes. All right, drinking buddies. So we have our final product here. And if you're not familiar with Clarified Milk Punch, this might be kind of a surprise for you, because what we have here is a orangey colored beverage. Pretty darn clear though. And the nastiness that we're gonna throw away. A lot of the color bonded to those curds, as well as some of the off-putting flavors will be bonded to the curds as well. I'm not exactly sure of exactly how the scientific process works out. I just know that you're finished with a really silky smooth, really tasty beverage at the end. And I did say we would end up with 2 to 3 cocktails. I think it's gonna be about 2. I garnished here with a cinnamon stick. Let's pour some in. And we'll drop in a few cloves as well for garnish. So here we have Clarified Milk Punch Pumpkin Spice Latte. Okay, so I wasn't sure how coffee would work in a Clarified Milk Punch, but boy is it there. Coffee is our most prominent flavor. Our second most prominent flavor is going to be the fall spices that we included in here. The cinnamon, the nutmeg, the cloves. You know, some of those flavors are really complemented by our rye we used, as well as you know, throwing in this cinnamon and cloves in the glass. Unfortunately, pumpkin is not a prominent flavor. I get lemon before I get pumpkin, but pumpkin is there. We do get pumpkin, and I believe there is actually no actual pumpkin in a Starbucks pumpkin spice latte. It's just those pumpkin spice flavors, which is, you know, your cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, etc. So I don't have a problem with the fact that the pumpkin actually takes a back seat. This is really good. I'm really impressed with what I did here because coffee I thought would be a hard one to tackle for clarification purposes. I expected the color to be a little darker since coffee is, you know, so rich in that dark color, especially since I use double strong coffee. This turned out really well. I'm really proud of this. You know, the clarification process is slow and maybe a little bit tedious, but what you end up with is just a really unique flavor that you wouldn't taste anywhere else. This tastes like nothing I've ever had before. Every time you do a clarified milk punch, you're making something that doesn't taste like anything you've had before. You know, when are you combining these flavors? You're just not. And the end result is always fun. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one.